Hello and welcome back to the SKUSavvy YouTube channel. In this overview video, we're going to cover the SKUSavvy platform and how you can utilize it to organize your warehouse, streamline order fulfillment, and ship orders faster. If you haven't already, make sure you get your free SKUSavvy account at app.skusavvy.com/register so that you can follow along. The first thing we're going to go through is the Shopify connection. So SKUSavvy is designed to work with Shopify very closely. And so what you'll do here is to head over to the Shopify connection and assemble the connection so that your locations will come over as warehouses, new products will come over, inventory, orders and order updates, and then new product and product updates will all flow into the system. As you add new data to Shopify, that is also going to flow into SKUSavvy in just about real time. So as an order comes in, or if you make a new product change, you should see that reflected within your account in just about real time. Now you can also connect multiple Shopify stores within one single SKUSavvy account to manage separate inventories, warehouses, products, and orders all within one single account. If you are adding new inventory, you should plan to add this inventory within SKUSavvy, which is going to reflect up to Shopify in near real time. If you do end up adding inventory on the Shopify side once you've connected, then what you're going to want to do is just head over to the resync and pull that inventory in to your SKUSavvy account. This is going to keep things in sync. Same thing goes for new locations. If you do add a new location within Shopify, you can go ahead and pull that location into your SKUSavvy account from here. While we're on this page, I do want to go through some of the shipping rate priorities that are connected with your Shopify store. Down here, as you can see, these are various rates that we are offering to our customer. And over here, we have the available services that we can match up so that during fulfillment, SKUSavvy will show that rate and omit other rates so that you have a more streamlined fulfillment, lining up the carrier services that you have available with the options that you're giving your customer. From here, we're going to go through and look at the configuration. So lots of different options within here. Certainly take a look through, but a few that I'll draw your attention to. Right here, we have the option to turn on various pick scans. So we can have a scan of the bin or the item. If we turn on the item scan, we could also indicate that we want to scan one unit at a time. And then again, on the pack side, we also have a scan option there. You can do local deliveries with batch picking of those delivery zones. Down here, you do have various inventory options. And then I also want to touch on barcoding. So within the platform, you're going to be able to set your default barcodes, barcode formats, I should say. So you'd want to set those up. And that way, when you do have your scanner connected, we do recommend a hardware scanner, and I'll link to the Terra scanners, which is just one option. Generally, to connect a hardware scanner, the requirements are that you have Bluetooth and that the scanner can accept a prefix. So once you turn on various scanner options, or in this case, a hardware scanner, you'll be able to utilize that in a contextual manner throughout the system. So wherever the system is looking for a scan, you would just simply use the hardware scanner to make that, and SKUSavvy will appropriately use that information at whatever stage you're at, whether that's in the fulfillment or check-in of a purchase order. It will be listening for that scan. Now you can also use the webcam scanner or a test mode scanner, which is this here, so that you can mimic a scan within the platform. Down at the bottom here, of course, you can set your default unit types and currency, how you want to relay the information up to your customs declared value of the order itself, as well as where you want to send purchase orders from, enabling transfers and cycle counts. A lot of this can be turned on or off depending on what your workflow is going to be. So certainly go ahead and look through that. Next up, we're just going to go through generally these categories here. So taking a look at our products, you can see here we have all of our variants. So we're looking at a specific variant, and you can see an overview of the inventory, what we've got committed, what we're expecting to bring in, and how fast this product is selling. If we click into a specific product, now we can see here, similar to how Shopify has it set up, where we've got a product and then we have variants of this product. If we go into a specific variant, we're going to get a little bit more detail in terms of what vendors currently carry this product, if it's in any kind of kits, the inventory that we have available, and where specifically it is available. Now, if we go into a specific warehouse, we're going to get an even more detailed view of exactly where this inventory lives. And then, of course, we have orders for, again, this specific variant here. Going back into the properties here, you can see that we also have barcodes associated with our Shopify store. Those have come over from our Shopify store. And you also have, if you do have relationships between products and vendors, you'll see that those relationships will pull over and you'll be able to make purchases around those vendor product relationships. So if we head back into the home company, we're going to go into our orders now. So here we have an overview of all of our orders coming into the system. We can narrow this down by any of the filters here and be able to see within a specific order what the customer has ordered and where it was routed to. You also could realign and route this order to a different location if it was routed to the wrong position. Now, by default, SKUSavvy is actually listening for the routing that has come down from Shopify. And depending on where your inventory is held, that's where the order is going to be routed. You can also make edits to an order, and those edits are going to send directly back up to Shopify if you make those within SKUSavvy. If you do make order edits on Shopify, those will also be reflected into SKUSavvy in just about real time. I should also point out here that you do have logs. So logs are going to be a very important component here, where you can narrow down and see the logs of every single thing that is happening, whether it be for a specific order or purchase order, or whether it be for a whole entire warehouse or employee. So you do have logs to really narrow down and see exactly what is happening within your system. If we go into our vendors here and we hone in on our Ollie's vendor, you can see here that we have the items already aligned with this specific vendor, and we do have some pricing and cost information, which is going to give us our margin. And then we can see how often and what orders we have open for this specific vendor. If we continue on, we're going to see that we have all of our customer information here. If we go into a specific customer, we're going to see the orders for that customer, as well as any kind of locations that might be associated with that customer. Going back into the home section here, heading now into the employees section, you can see here we have the list of active employees. We can choose whether to enable or disable an account. And if we click into one of these new accounts, we can see the permissions enabled for this specific employee. Quite a few different permissions that you can provide for a staff account, as well as being able to narrow down their permission set to a specific warehouse. To invite new employees, you would just head over to your invite and create the account, giving the necessary permissions. And you can also see current invitations to your account, as well as being able to click into one and either resend or revoke a specific invite. Going down into the carrier section, this is going to be one of the first things that you're going to need to set up before you actually can ship orders. So if we go into our carrier section and click on modify carriers, this is going to open the ship engine dashboard, which will enable you to connect with your carriers. Now there are quite a few carrier options within here. So what you would do after you accept the terms and conditions is to head over and add your new carrier accounts. This is going to pull up a lot of available carriers from around the world. If you don't see a carrier that you would like to, be sure to let us know and we can do what we can to get that carrier added here. Heading over into our packaging, of course, you would need to add packaging. This packaging inventory can be tracked at a specific warehouse location. So you would just go ahead and add all of your available package sizes, and then that will be available to ship orders within. Now, by default, if you do add your product weight and dimensions, SKUSavvy will make a suggestion on the package size. While we're over back on the products, I want to go through a couple of bulk actions here. So you do have the ability to print product barcodes within SKUSavvy, and you can go ahead and select your custom template, and that would print out labels. You do have other options for printing here, and you do have the option to update product length, width, height information in bulk for any filters that we might apply to this list, and then assemble the dimensions so that you do have those package suggestions during fulfillment. On the print side of things, let's go into the templates. So within here, you do have the ability to build a custom template for purchase orders, for your item labels, for bin labels, for packing slips, and a variety of others. So here we have a custom purchase order template. As you can see, lots of different options that we can use and introduce here, turning on or turning off various pieces of information, entering the names of things, so that it gives you full customization over what information you're actually presenting to the vendor in this case. If we go back into our templates, you can see here that there are quite a few options for the bin, pickup slip, packing slips, etc. Certainly encourage you to use custom templates. You can really help to brand or make very valuable information available to whoever might need to see it. All right, so let's go into now our warehouse, which is really going to be the action center. If we go into a specific warehouse, I'm going to go into our Austin warehouse for now, and we're going to look at the layout first. So this is going to be one of the first steps in terms of getting your product allocated to the bins that you have within your warehouse. Now, if we go over here, we can start editing, and we can build a bin within here, a shelf. And we can name this shelf. I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of how you can bulk generate some bins and really make it quite easy to set up your warehouse layout. So there we've just added a bunch of bins. Once you have your bins, you'll print those labels out, and those can be used in a barcode scanning format so that you can scan inventory to the bin and make it quick to get that inventory in and be able to scan the bin and see what you've got within there. Variety of benefits to having this map in place and set up within your physical warehouse. Now, this map is certainly going to play an important role here within the SKUSavvy platform. And actually within here, you can turn this over to 3D so that we can see exactly what we've got, and we can see which bins are filled versus empty here. And again, this is going to, as we narrow it down to a specific inventory item, I go into our Savvy warehouse here. If we go into our inventory and we click on a specific item, we're now going to get the item specific view here where we can see exactly where this item is located around the warehouse. So from this view, we're now looking at a single inventory item within our warehouse. And as you can see here, we have the warehouse specific information for a number of total units, what it's committed to, what's expected to come in, how fast it's selling. And down here, we can see again the specific information for a inventory level in a bin. So from here, we could go ahead and make adjustments. You can provide a reason for the adjustment, and you could also provide a capacity for that specific bin and this inventory, so that if your capacity gets below where it should be, SKUSavvy will automatically indicate that there needs to be a bin replenishment activity there. Down at the bottom here, we could also turn on automated replenishment. So let's go ahead and find a product that might have some automated replenishment. Okay, so down here we can see for this product, we have turned on automated replenishment, which is going to enable us to, during the purchase order creation, give a value for what we should be purchasing, how many units we should be purchasing to get back up to our desired maximum par value range here. And then as you can see down here, the vendor lead time is also being calculated. So let's jump in and see how we can use this automated replenishment now to create a purchase order for several items here. I'm going to jump over into our Austin warehouse and head into orders, inbound, and we're going to create a new purchase order. And from here, I'm going to select the vendor. So just outlining the purchase order format here. First of all, based on our automated replenishment levels, we can turn on suggestions. And actually, if we look at the inventory very quickly here, we can see that on our stock replenishment, this is giving us a list of all of our items and their current replenishment range. So as you can see, it's telling us how fast the item is selling, where our min and max par values are, and then also where the current inventory level is. And so now if we go back into the inbound order creation, we're going to see here that once we select a vendor and turn on suggestions, SKUSavvy is now pulling in all of this information to give us a suggested replenishment or purchase quantity in order to bring any single item back up to its maximum par value by the time that the order arrives. Again, factoring in what you've got on hand, what it's committed to, what's expected to already come in, what the lead time is from the vendor, how fast the item is selling. And so this is going to give us a value for each one of the items that match the criteria to reorder. So here we can see that while we're setting up this purchase order, you've got an external ID. You can set a delivery date for the order itself. You can add meta fields, and we can optionally notify the vendor, which is going to send out an email that your vendor could click into and view the vendor portal, make confirmation or make changes and submit them back to you so that you have a streamlined way of placing those purchase orders. Down below here, we can see that right now we're listing the vendor items, although we could turn this off, and then we would be able to assign products to the vendor at this point. So I'm going to leave that turned on. We can also look at stock across our different warehouse locations. We could set a sales date range that we want to consider for the replenishment suggestions. We could also import or make a CSV file and import that to help create the purchase order here. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a few values here so we can look at what we need to be purchasing. And if I applied suggestions, this would just go through and add the suggestions to all of the items that match. So as you can see, SKUSavvy has gone through and filled in the suggested quantity. And down below here, we can see everything that is currently on this purchase order. So we're going to go ahead and create this. At this time, we could also update the cost for any of our items, and this would also flow back up to Shopify to update that cost on the product for this specific vendor. So if we go ahead and now create this purchase order, we'll see that SKUSavvy is going to assemble this, and then we could go through and check this in. So here we have our new purchase order. And actually, I also want to show the vendor portal. So once we have created this, we're going to get the email sent out to our vendor, and the vendor can click into it and view the vendor portal here where they can get their purchase order, view the quantities, view all the information that you're trying to purchase from them, and they could also make adjustments and then send those adjustments back to you for confirmation. So we're just going to go ahead and confirm this. And now once we go back into SKUSavvy, we can continue checking this purchase order in. So I'm going to go ahead and check this in. We'll mark it as delivered, which is going to influence the lead time from this vendor. And here we're seeing the check-in interface. So at this point, we certainly could turn on our item scan as well as a bin scan. In this case, I'm just going to use the manual receiving. So I'm going to count the items. And as I count them, this is also now showing us, of course, where this item is currently held around the warehouse so that we can place this item in a corresponding bin where this item is already located. And from here, I'm going to just go ahead and select an item, or of course, you could use a barcode scan to scan this item to that bin location. So I'll continue checking these in, and I'll select the bin. If you do choose to use the selection tool, SKUSavvy is going to show you where you've already got this item located at the top of the list. Once we have counted the items, you'll also see here that you could print out a receiving label for each of the items that come in. You could print a quantity for every item received, or print just a single one if in the case that one of the barcodes might be not legible or didn't come with the product. So now that we have gone ahead and checked in a few of these, I'm going to go ahead and complete part of this. And what we're going to see is that SKUSavvy is going to create a secondary inbound shipment for the rest of the items if in the case that your vendor is sending part of the purchase order and then later on sending the other part of it. So if we go ahead and complete checking this in, we'll now see what we've already counted, and we can go ahead and receive the rest of this product. And in this case, we have an expiring item. So this is going to ask us for a specific lot number. And so we're going to assign the lot number here. And then just like the others, we're going to allocate this over to a specific bin. So now we've completed this purchase order. And now we have this inventory in stock. And as soon as you receive the inventory to a bin location, this is going to update immediately back to Shopify so that your inventory values are updated at the corresponding location that those items came into. So if we also look at the three-dot menu here, we can see the logs for this specific item. As you can see, this is tracking everything that was happening here. And if we go back to the order itself, we can also look, we could get our own purchase order. So here would be the template for that. We could print that out. We can see either resend it to our vendor, we could export this, we could duplicate it. So that is the purchase order process in a nutshell. The next thing that I want to go through here is, of course, on the order fulfillment or the outbound order side. So to do that, I'm going to bounce over to our other Savvy warehouse here, and we're going to go to fulfill. So we're talking about orders that have come in from our online channels, or maybe they were placed within SKUSavvy. So you can place a outbound order within SKUSavvy. And so if we wanted to, we could actually send that order up to our Shopify store. We can select our customer. Looks like that customer doesn't have a location yet. And we'll go ahead and select. There we go. So we now are creating this purchase order, and this outbound order. And from here, we could just simply create the order with whatever kind of quantities the customer has ordered. And down below here, we can select our packaging and actually get live shipping rates to add to the order total cost. So I'm going to go ahead and select a shipping rate. And as you can see down here, we're assembling this order. You can click on one of the items to give a discount on the specific order item. So we'll add that as a discount. You could add an order total discount. And this is going to now actually send up to our Shopify store here. Now you don't have to send that up, but that certainly is an option. So if we go ahead and create that order, now let's go ahead and actually look at what it might look like to create this or to fulfill that order. So here we have an order that was just created previously from our Shopify store. And now we could go ahead and click into the single order. And if we come down to the bottom here, this is going to enable us to fulfill this order. So if we click on fulfill, SKUSavvy is going to create a single order batch for this product. So we can come through, pick our products. Now, again, I don't have a barcode scan turned on, but you certainly could use barcode scanning at this point. And with a hardware scanner, all you would need to do is actually just start scanning. So whatever you have turned on for bin scan or product scan, you would either scan the bin first or just scan the product, and that will automatically pick the items and add them to the batch here. Now I'm going to go ahead and package these up. So as you can see, we have our order information here. And anywhere that you see your store tag, you can click on it and it will bring you into the relevant piece of information. So for instance, this would actually bring us directly into this order here. I'm going to go ahead and indicate that I'm packing these items up, and we'll go ahead and get a packaging, select our packaging, and then we can purchase our label and print that out. So we've just purchased our label. Everything is packaged up on this order, and now we can go ahead and print the label out as well as the packing slip here. So we have our preview and we've got our packing slip there that we can print out. That's going to, now that we've printed that out, that's going to update back to Shopify with the tracking information as well as a link so that your customer can click in and be able to view the tracking information associated with this order. So let's go ahead and finish this one off. And now I want to go through, that was a single order batch. Now we're going to go through a multi-order batch. And so what you're going to notice down here is that all of the current open shipments for your orders will show up here. And so what we could do is click on batch shipments. And within here, you're going to have the ability to batch by specific tags. We could batch by product tag, order tag, shipping methods, item SKUs, creation date, a variety of different ways that you can put orders together. And SKUSavvy by default is going to try to put similar orders together into the same batch so that you're going to less bin positions, but you're getting more orders done. I also want to point out that you can use pick to tote. So we'll go through an example there as well. Here I'm just going to leave the item limit at 25 and we're going to set the shipment limit at say 5. So I'm going to go ahead and batch up the orders that correspond with this specific tag here. And at the top now, SKUSavvy has created a new order batch for us. So we can go ahead and click into this order batch and again just proceed through picking, or in the case that you're using scanners, just scanning through. So actually before we do this one, so in this case, this product here has alternative units of measure. So if we were to, for instance, pick the quantity of 2 from one of our case packs, what will happen is that SKUSavvy is going to put the remainder 8 units back into the singles bin. So if we go ahead and we pick from the case, you can see here SKUSavvy is alerting us that since we only need 2, the rest of the items are going to go back into our singles. So I'll pick that, and SKUSavvy has allocated some of the stock back into our singles here. And we'll just continue on down through here, fast forward through the picking. And as you can see, as we're going through these, SKUSavvy is indicating the position that we need to go and pick from. We can look at all of the positions to see where we need to go. And you can also open this up so that all of the cards are open. And if you just press Control P, you'd be able to print out a pick list. Now we recommend using the hardware devices, but that certainly is an option. So we'll just go ahead and pick through the rest of these. And now we're going to go into package these up. Now again, this is just taking us through each one of the orders within this batch. And we'll go ahead, package these up, get our box size. And we could also mark this manually fulfilled here. So if you are not using carriers, you can mark this fulfilled, or if you have an external carrier that isn't yet connected with SKUSavvy or not available, you could scan or upload the tracking information here, which would also be sent up with the order to Shopify. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the carrier labeling here. And this is just going to take us through each one of the orders within the batch. And we'll go through the same process here. In this case, this shipping service has been pre-selected because we've aligned this method that we've offered our customer, the Ground Advantage here, with the carrier service Ground Advantage. So we only have one option here because SKUSavvy has determined that that's the right fit. Now you can also see down here that there's a few other options in terms of insurance or confirmation types, and you can open up the advanced options here to see what the carrier is specifically offering. This could be for signature required, it could be for hazardous items, it could be for your shipment non-machinable, various types of advanced options from the carriers directly. So we'll go ahead and purchase this label. And again, we can go ahead and now print this out, and that would again update back to Shopify. Now the final method that I want to show you of fulfilling orders, and probably the best one if you are using a cart and tote. So you can imagine from here, we've already established this. Let's go ahead and go into one that has not yet been established. So here we're using pick to tote. And so what you can imagine is you've got a cart. That cart you're going to assign a label to. And once you assign the label, then you would just at this point go ahead and assign that cart label to this batch. So if we assign the label, that now has a corresponding barcode. I'm going to skip printing of the barcode. And again, we're just going to pick through our product. But now there's an interim step, which is that SKUSavvy is telling us where we need to put these items on our cart. So I'm going to just tap these to indicate that I'm scanning that to that specific tote. And so from here, again, we'll just go ahead and indicate that. Now, if we start to look at our totes, so here's one where we've got 3 units and 2 are going in tote 1, 1 is going in tote 4. So again, that just makes it very easy between the time that you're picking and the time that you're fulfilling to get the right information, the right order contents associated with each one of the inventory items that you're placing into the tote. So we'll go ahead and pick these. So we've gone and picked several of these. Now we can look at the tote contents. And so you can see each one of the totes has the corresponding inventory items. Now a tote would be a single order in this case. So if we click on the tote, this will take us through to actually start fulfilling that order. So at this point, let's look at this item. We have not yet picked one of the items here. That could be a backstock item, but we still want to be able to ship out the order. So what you're going to do is just simply pack up what you can. And in this case, I'm just going to split the shipment. So we'll split this off. And now SKUSavvy is going to create a secondary shipment for that other item that you can come back to at a later time. And this just gives us the ability to send out this single order here with this one item, right? So we'll purchase the label, and just like any other order, this now would be updated back to Shopify with the tracking information, and we would have a secondary shipment for the rest of the items in this order. So that is pick to tote. Now let's go into the last kind of order, which is a transfer order to go between 2 warehouses or a warehouse and a store. And with this type of transfer, we're going to have workflows on both sides. So if we go to our outbound transfer, we're going to originate on the outbound side. You can see here, if we create a new transfer, we also have the same ability to make suggestions. So if the inbound side of the transfer, the receiving side, has par values established, you can see here that SKUSavvy is making suggestions, again, using the same type of criteria as the purchase orders to get that stock over to the inbound side of the transfer and replenish back up to the desired levels. So this is going to be very similar to the way that a purchase order starts out, where you can select and view stock from a particular warehouse. We can open this and be able to see what is currently at the warehouse that we've selected. Again, being able to select a date range to consider as part of the sales. We could import orders here, and we can of course use the filters to narrow down that list. So I've already gone ahead and created a transfer. So I'm going to go into this transfer. And within a transfer, you're going to have 2 sides of it. So first, we're going to go ahead and pick the outbound side. So this is very similar to the way that a regular outbound order pick would appear. So I'm just going to come through, pick all of our items here for transfer. And again, you could certainly use barcode scanning at this point. So we've picked the items. Now I'm going to package them up like normal. Here, this is giving us the option to select how many we're actually packaging at a time. So let's package all these up. Now for a transfer, once you've packed them up, you can just go ahead and mark this fulfilled if you're internally going to be shipping this through your own fleet, or you can certainly use regular carrier rates to ship this via parcel. So here I'm just going to mark this manually as fulfilled, and that's going to complete the outbound side of the transfer. So if we go back in and we view the transfer here, we can see that this is now fulfilled, meaning on the outbound side, we have picked the items and they are ready to be received on the inbound side. So I'm going to head over to the inbound side by clicking on the to side here. And now you can see that this has not been checked in. So we're going to go ahead and check this in. Again, this is going to look exactly the same as a normal inbound purchase order would look. And in this case, we're just going to go ahead and count the items that we're receiving and again, allocate them to a bin. Now, if you are supplying a retail store, you may choose to just simply count all of the items. So if I click on this count all, This would count all of the items and enable me to allocate this to just a single bin at one time. So I'm just going to allocate all of these to a single bin here. And we have now completed the transfer. So the stock has been taken from our outbound side, and again, taken from that location in Shopify as well. And once the stock is on the transfer, it is removed from both sides of the transfer within Shopify as well. And only until that stock has been allocated back into the receiving side does it become available within Shopify. So that's the last type of order that we're going to go through here. Now let's shift over a little bit to some of the inventory management features within here. So as you can see, if we click within a single inventory item, we're viewing where this inventory currently lives around in the warehouse. And if we wanted to create a bin-to-bin replenishment, what you would do is establish the ranges for a given inventory item. So we can see the capacity here. Again, this is referring to a specific bin that contains this inventory. So if we have a minimum capacity of, let's say, 110 and a maximum capacity of 200, you can see here that this is now outside of the range. And so if we go ahead and we create a bin-to-bin replenishment, we can select the from side and going over to, and we'll create this relationship here. And now we can see that this has now been established, that there's a transfer of inventory from one bin to another. And so you can view that by going into the bin-to-bin replenishment. Let's look at, here we can see that existing one that we just set up there, but that is currently satisfied. So let's go over into our SKUSavvy warehouse, and you can see here that now this is populating a list of bin-to-bin replenishments so that someone could come through and make a transfer from one bin to another. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is if you just go into a single bin, right? So we could just click into one of our bins here and view the information. And for a single bin, we can view what is currently held within this bin. And you could go ahead and make a transfer from this bin, go ahead and scan another bin or select a different bin and transfer stock from one bin to another within the same warehouse location. Or we could do a bulk transfer and move all of the stock from this bin over to another bin that we have. So that's one way to move stock around.
Another method you could use is to just simply head over to the Scan Anything button. So if I tap here, or if you're using a hardware scanner, you can just simply scan an item. So if I mimic a scan here, we're going to pull up the information for this specific item so that we could view the variant, view the product, view our inventory, or just simply make an adjustment here. So if I click on Make an Adjustment, now we're going to get all of the inventory levels for this specific item. And from here, we could go ahead and make an adjustment for this inventory within this specific bin. And that's going to allow you to give a reason code, add a note, and we can make an adjustment to the capacity here as well.
Now you could also make an inventory adjustment by simply coming into Inventory, clicking on Adjust, and from here we'll go ahead and select the item. And now we could either add new inventory to this to this item, or we could make an adjustment to one of our existing inventory levels here. Additionally, as we're looking through this inventory, there are, of course, a few ways that you can make adjustments to the stock. You can require an adjustment reason as well, so that you know what the reason is that you're making that adjustment. And you can also get inventory logs of every single movement that's happening throughout your warehouse. So here we're looking at the inventory logs, and we can narrow this down by the change type, by an employee or a date range, by a reason. These are your own reason codes here. And then we could also get an export of the logs themselves. Now this can also, of course, be narrowed down, and we can look at a specific employee to be able to see what kind of actions they've been taking and what is actually happening within here, so that if something was to come up, we could dive into it and actually see what was happening to a particular inventory item. These logs are available for any single piece of information. So again, on an order, on an inventory item, for an entire warehouse, we can look in and see exactly what's happening via the logs. If we go back to our inventory, We can also look into cycle counts. So cycle counting is a method of continuously counting the inventory throughout your warehouse. Now here I'm just going to go ahead and create a cycle count, and we can select an automatic cycle count and then enter a number of bins that we want to count per cycle. So here if I just enter 5 bins and then we go ahead and assign this to Superman, we're going to create this cycle count, and SKUSavvy is going to select a few items, and this is showing us how many items we're going to count here. So if we click in to a specific bin, we can now go ahead, click on the item, or you can certainly use scanning at this point to just simply start scanning either the bin or scan the item to start counting these items. So if I go ahead and enter 990, oh, there we go. So if I counted 999 there, we'll count 50. And we'll go ahead and just act as if we're going to complete this cycle count. And what you're going to see is that SKUSavvy is giving us an overview of what changes we're going to make here. And so we can include or not include the specific changes that we want to. In this case, if we were only able to count a few of these items, we can just simply uncheck the ones that we don't want, and we'll keep the ones that we do, and then go ahead and complete this cycle count. So completing the cycle count, that's going to give us a new updated inventory, and that will also update to Shopify to indicate what we have counted. Let's take a look, and we're getting close to the end of this video, so I appreciate you hanging on this far. Let's take a look at the bulk allocation of inventory. So when your stock first comes over from Shopify, what you're going to see is that the inventories have come over, but they are yet to be assigned to a bin. And so what we're going to want to do here is assign the inventory to a bin. Now this is using the bulk allocation. And so at this point, again, if you're using hardware scanner, you could just simply walk up to a bin, scan the bin, and then scan the items, and SKUSavvy will select the items that you're scanning. So if we wanted to allocate all of these 4 items here, we can just simply either select or again scan the items. And now if we wanted to allocate, we could put all of these items into a bin at one time. You also could go ahead and just simply select a filter and highlight all of the options that match that filter. And again, that would allocate, as you can see here, 31 quantities to the bin that we've selected here. So it makes it very quick to allocate a lot of stock at one time. We can also bulk reconcile inventory. So if you do have a lot of external fulfillments, meaning either on another shipping platform or you have a point of sale order that wasn't reconciled, we can bulk reconcile these. And from here, this is going to allow you to remove the stock from a particular bin, or just simply remove the reconciliations altogether if you know that they shouldn't actually be reconciled. The last thing that we want to go through here is some reporting. So what you're going to find within the system is going into the particular information that you want to capture. So for instance, if we wanted to get all of our outbound orders, we could just go into our outbound orders table, hover over and click on the export orders. And from here, we can narrow down and select a customer, or we could select specific order tags to export. And then you do have a lot of different order fields, or whatever kind of export you're trying to get. You have all of the different fields for that particular piece of data that you can export here. So just going through a few of these, of course, you've got exports on all of the different types of orders. You can go into a specific vendor, go into the items, and we could export the specific vendor items here and their cost. We could go into our inventory either at a company-wide level and get an export there, or we could go into the warehouse inventory and get an export of the specific warehouse. You can also narrow that down from the general export of your inventory here. And this is going to give you the ability to select different cost types, and that way you can get an inventory valuation summary just by going into that export. All of your exports will be seen afterwards down here. And so then you could actually pull those up if you wanted to and re-download those at a later time. The last thing that I do want to point out is the support that we try to give everyone who's using the system. And so if you do experience some kind of issue or you have a feature suggestion, by all means come up over into this little icon here, which is going to enable you to submit a ticket to our team that will come directly into, and we can deal with that in an effective manner. So if you do encounter a bug or you have a feature suggestion, certainly encourage you to use this to submit that feedback. And that way we have an organized place where we can deal with that and hopefully get you back up and running or introduce some kind of new functionality to help you get where you're trying to go. All right, that is going to wrap it for this overview video. If you do have questions, please leave them in the comments. And as always, we look forward to seeing you on the next video, and make sure to subscribe because we are going to be releasing quite a few of these. And as always, make sure to get your free SKUSavvy account at app.skusavvy.com/register. And we'll see you on the next one. Happy fulfilling.